First of all, thank you so much to NEPTA, Eric, Vivian, so much for inviting me today. This is the most attention I'm gonna get all week. So I've been really worked up for it. Now I'm trying to figure out who came for the coffee or for the coffee. Like I was here like about 11 years ago giving a talk. Nina was here, yeah. And I am very sad to tell you that in the 11 years, I have not learned anything. I have not grown, except maybe this way, you know. So pretty much everything is the same, except for the fact that this morning I spent 15 minutes trying to hide my balding spots. Thank you. Yeah, that's the difference. And Ina looks exactly the same. She looks 10 years younger. I look 11 years older with balding spots. And I did spend another 17 minutes trying to put on these magnetic eyelashes, which is my biggest concern for today's talk because I am not sure they will last for the duration of the talk. So if you see me rush through the end, please know that I am running to the bathroom. So, welcome. And I see more people coming in. Yes, the Starbucks coffees, the free coffees are over there, and the talk is over here. So I don't know which way people are coming, so free coffee or the talk. One thing that have changed in 11 years, Nina, since I gave the talk, is I developed a nickname in the piano circles. It's called Crazy Sarah. I thought it would be a little bit fun to share what I've been up to, so I'll have some videos to show you. I recently had an amazing opportunity to play in Stern Auditorium, Carnegie Hall, for a very private United Nations Gala event, and I had a chance to be on Turkish national TV before the event. This was right before my Carnegie Hall, that's Scriabin number 4. So this is in a style of Bartok, like Opus 14. I took a bit of that scale and made a little. So that's the Bartok improv. And everybody knows the Chopin waltz. Yeah, it's just, and improvisation, inspired by Bach invention. And here's on the Beethoven Sonata. Okay, so, and then we keep increasing the beats. I think this was the magical part. This just happened spontaneously.
Why is your shirt so small? Is this how people dress in this country? So tasteless. It's just like the pad thai you ordered at the restaurant on Wednesday for lunch. One day, you'll realize. But if you feel so strongly about this, I will do some thinking about letting you stay. But promise me, you won't do stupid things like marry this Mr. Worldwide. He's the one who does that accent in New Hampshire.
It's a little bit offensive, I apologize.
Immediately start laughing because they're all racist. But in Boston, I just wanted to talk to someone, and I told him I'm a comedian. He didn't know I was just lonely.
And I said, of course, your children, your husband, your parent, mother-in-law, especially mother-in-law, your aunt, and your dog, of course. So what I did was I just put them all up for adoption. Yeah, so that's no, actually the truth is, I wanted those things. So part of my talk will be about my heartbreak. Many years ago, I had a dream of having 3 children and a family and a golden retriever. But it's not one of those things you can control. Didn't happen for me. And turns out all my family members died, and I'm from Japan. And I'm in this country not by choice, but my father had an international business that had him travel over the world. And one of the funnest things I can tell you all is that I have an amazing education. However, I did 7th grade in 3 different schools. I couldn't get out of 7th grade. I did 7th grade in Seattle. Then we moved to Tokyo, and I did 2 semesters of 7th grade in Japan, only to move to Washington, D.C., and to do another 3 months of 7th grade again. So this is me and my triple 7th grade education talking to you all. And so, yeah, so the first part is one of the things that I learned in life, which is going to be important in sharing with you how I got to where I am, is honesty. My mom taught me the value of honesty when I was young. I think I was 5 or 6 years old, and I was terrible. I lied and did something terrible, and my mom was sure to stop me and said, Sarah, you're never gonna lie again. So honesty became like a big thing in my head, like, oh, to live this life, you have to be a very honest person. So I'm somewhere between dating and becoming a cat lady. When I go home, it's a turf war between Alexa and ChatGPT. So I just go back and forth, back and forth. About 5 or 6 years old, I would be thinking about infinity. I'm thinking of it as infinite love, or unconditional love, or infinite joy, eternal life. I come from 2 generations of Christian ministers. My grandfather was a minister, and his father was a minister. I was like, oh, I want to be infinity. And to me, that was infinity, or one with God. And how that came about was that I found out when I was little, there were wars in the world. Like, there were people killing each other. And as a child, I was like, why are people killing each other? Why would they do that? And my parents were like, that's because they don't agree. So they gave me a very simple explanation. When countries don't agree on something, they go and kill each other. And I was like, how could that happen? You know, when you're a kid, you're so super devastated. And I said, well, if people are going to disagree, how about maybe if everybody learn to expand the way they think so that they don't just stand in one place, but they can think in the other person's shoes. And I said, oh, I need to be that person. I need to expand the way I think as far and wide as possible so that I can not just stay in my little tiny light, but I can like think like other people and have some empathy and consciousness. So that's a weird path, but when I was 6 years old, I said, I'm going to expand the consciousness of my being. And that has actually stayed the same purpose throughout my life. Things. I remember when I was little, I wanted to be just like my grandfather. And he was such a beautiful human being. I said, I want to be just like him. And I didn't know what that meant, like maybe a minister or a nun. And so there were 5 things I wanted to be. I wanted to be a minister, a nun, author, philosopher, singer, dancer, speaker on NEPTA. And today I can finally check that box off. Weirdly, none of those things I wanted to be said pianist. How many of you started piano because your mom signed you up for piano lessons? How many of you started piano because you asked your parents? 1. Wow. Okay. Well, that's very impressive. So, which one of you were the ones that were started before you had a choice? Was it you, Rakata? Yeah. Now, for those of you who started with the parents signing you up, was there any one point you go, wow, I don't want to keep doing this, I want to quit?
Of course.
Yeah. How many of you thought of quitting?
Yes.
Yes, of course. So I turned 12, and I wrote a 10-page letter telling my parents, most importantly, how much money they would save by letting me quit. And I put it on the kitchen table. I wake up in the morning, walk down to the kitchen table, and my mom took one look at me, and she did this. She went like that, and then threw it in the garbage can. Not even a conversation. There was no, okay. When you do something without choice, I think some of us struggle with how to really love the piano, right? So I feel at this point in my life, depending on how old you guys think I am, I'm not telling you that, but I'm somewhere between menopause and becoming a cat lady, so I think you guys have some idea how old I am. But I think I can finally say now that I've really come full circle, and I love this thing. When I was 25 years old, right after my first doctoral recital, I had a near-death experience. I woke up in intensive care unit after being in a coma for 4 days, sleeping 3-4 hours. You know, doctoral program is very difficult, and I was just starting competitions. And right after the recital, I had my first little seizure, and a week later, they flew me to Maryland, where the doctor said Sarah needs to be under 24 surveillance because something terrible is going to happen. And sure enough, the next day I arrived, my mom saw me have a grand mal seizure right in front of her, and she saved my head with a cushion. But I was in a coma for a week. And so on the 4th day, I woke up. I was like, oh my God, I'm 25 years old. I knew I almost died. And I said, oh my God, I could have died before my grandmother died, before my mom died. Oh my God, I'm 25 and I just almost died. And I heard a voice. You have been given a second opportunity to live, to learn more about God. I heard this. And immediately after, I started seeing people's auras, and I started predicting events. I started getting some gifts, what you call sixth sense. It took me 2 years of many, many healings, and healers had to work on my vision, my walking, there was a lot that I couldn't do anymore. I was crying a lot because I was like, my life is over. I can't function, I can't walk, I can't see. But 2 years of rehab, and Gene Stackhouse invited me to come teach at NEC Prep 2 years later, and I was able to start, but my doctor's orders were, don't do anything stressful, don't do competitions, don't do anything, because if you get stressed again, we cannot guarantee you will survive. Like, you might die the next time. Yeah, so that changed my life. So from age 25, my whole perspective on life became different. So these days, when I have to make a decision for anything, like I'm stressed out and like, okay, do I go this way or this way? I always think about, what if I only had a week to live, or a day to live? So I call it my death is my friend, because I think often about how fragile life is and how I was that close. And since then, health has been very much a priority, mentally and physically. And so, in addition to that, after that happened, I went looking for my 3 children, whole family, the dog, the white picket fence dream. I chased that. That did not work out for me. Let's just say I got an F in dating. So that kind of heartbreak really got me into crying every single day for 1.5 years. I was alone. I had no family in the country. I had nowhere to go, and I was crying every day. And I tried therapy, didn't work, and I had to find a way to survive, like get myself out of this depression. And so that's when I started to PLAY, play. Play became my therapy and my salvation cure in how I started approaching life. First of all, every morning, because I would cry every morning when I woke up, I made myself watch comedy on YouTube, Standup Comedy, and I just laugh. And once I laughed, I felt better, and I was health-oriented, so every day I would go out into the nature and climb trees. So I discovered play, and play, or approaching everything in a very playful, fun way, became the trigger point for my creativity. So, and also it became my therapy, creativity, and my salvation.
My name is Infini Takagi. I like to play. And I mean play.
Play is interacting with one's chosen elements in a spontaneous, light-hearted way, which leads to increased creativity, discovery, heightened states of well-being, often accompanied by a sense of wonder and joy. And since then, I've developed more words, which is play is like a play, which today in today's talk will be improvisation, is like bringing your presence into the present moment. And for those of you who meditate, I find play to be a sense of meditation with the elements and with where you are. So you're approaching life and the circumstance, your environment, with an expected center of gratitude and joy. So that's me. That was in Jordan Hall. In Japan, I lived in a really nice neighborhood where there were tons of kids my age, and every day after school, we throw away randoseru, backpack. And every day after school, the entire neighborhood kids we would be outside playing for 3 hours. And you just play, go out into nature, find some snakes, find some bugs, or play kick the can, or play this rubber band game. And honestly, if I look at my entire life, those 7 years in Japan were like the happiest years of my life. Yeah, so couple comments about the things I do. I realized they were all things that either happened accidentally or that I intentionally wanted to do them. I started singing jazz, not because I wanted to be a jazz singer, but I was wanted to be a jazz pianist, and so I was taking lessons with this amazing guy named Lefteris, but found out his wife was also a jazz singer. So I was like, oh, 2-for-1 deal, I could learn piano and singing. And then it turns out, Michael, I was not smart enough to play jazz piano. Yeah, if you know any jazz pianist like Michael, he's like an amazing composer and jazz pianist. I just couldn't get my head wrapped around those 13th chords and flat 9s and sharp 11. And I was, yeah, well, that's how you become great like Michael. No, I think I was kind of depressed at the time, so I couldn't, like, this whole extended chord harmony thing just really overwhelmed me. So what happened was I ended up singing jazz, and then these amazing teachers encouraged. Anything I hear from everybody is, you're so brave. You're so brave to be doing what you're doing. And what happens is your life ends, you die alone. And so I live in complete solitude. I have no family, friends, relatives. And this one works pretty good for a white audience, but it's like not even a Tom Brady blow-up doll. That one only works in a certain situation, and that only worked until about 3 years ago, until he betrayed us, right? He abandoned us. So, in fact, when I did this crazy Jordan Paul concert, I remember one of my colleagues from NEC piano department came up, and from afar, she said, "Sarah, you're so crazy." And then she whispered to me, she goes, "I wish I could do what you're doing. I wish I had the balls." So apparently, I'm having a lot of fun, and people want to have fun, but they're just a little shy or hesitant. And so that's why I've developed the Infinity 88 method, which is it's a coaching that I do for piano teachers, but also non-piano teachers, for anyone who is interested in developing their creativity, which is I coach them to working with visualization, meditation. Oh, incidentally, in my teaching practice, when I teach each student, I like to become like an infinite teacher. So when I look at each student, I meditate and pray for guidance. I use prayer as a way to receive, and I focus on the highest vision that I can for each of my students. And how I contribute to world peace is my job as a human being is to always seize the highest vision and the infinite success of each person that I see in my world. I'm a Reiki master, healer, and one of the things I do before concerts is, so Reiki is a form of healing. And I became attuned to that. And so one of the things I do before concert is I would Reiki the piano strings. I would Reiki the room. And often, I guess, I don't consider myself a strict Christian, but I pray. Like I pray for the concert to be blessed and that I can be of service. And bring some healing or lightness or joy or laughter to any event. And so I feel it has helped me to nurture many students of completely different ranges. I have students who win piano competitions. I have students who win composition competitions. And I have students who said, not interested, and who I teach heavy metal sheet music, the Black Sabbath, and I also help them sing. And here's a little bit of some sample of my studio. So I teach a theater, improv, and composition class at New England Conservatory called Let's Improv Classical. And this is from the show last spring at the Black Box Theater. And this is Isushi, my student. And she had a talent show at school. And she said, I want to perform in the talent show. And I said, where is this going to be? And she said, cafeteria. And that's when I knew she cannot play Beethoven or Bach, that she was preparing for the competition. I said, okay, Isu, no one's gonna listen if you play Beethoven or Bach. We have to think of something popular. What's popular in your grade? And she said, Taylor Swift. And I said, okay, so what song by Taylor Swift? Shake It Off. So I said, okay, all right, together we composed the piano version of Shake It Off. Aren't these kids cute? I have a 8-year-old boy named William who is always sad, and he's a composer. He wrote a piece. It was so cute. He's like this young, this cute William. I said, "What's the name of your song?" He goes, "Sadness." So this is the piece "Sadness" in the Chopin style. And then Vivian knows my very talented student, Daniel Lee. Michael does too. Daniel has been studying composition with me, just composition. He studies piano with Van Lee. So I took him in when he was 12 years old, and he is a super brilliant prodigy that I've been very honored to work with. And recently he wrote a piece that got performed in Carnegie Hall, Stern Auditorium. And this is how many of you meditate? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, do you find that helps you in your making decisions and things like that? Like, do you feel guided? Yeah, well, exactly.
Hear the voice.
So Dwayne is a very spiritual old friend of mine. He's such a such a super kind, amazing guy. Very spiritual. Thank you so much for coming. So I find that one of the things we don't really talk about is that I think when you receive a student, I think meditating about the student, in my case, I also meditate and pray over a student. I find that I would say we all have incredibly well-developed intuition, right, of our students. In fact, that's what happened to Ellie Barone. Ellie, I had recently done a project where I was writing a new piece every day. And it was like a 2-page little short piece I was writing. And I happened to share it with everyone. And Ellie Barone asked me if she could teach the piece to her student. And she said, it's been so hard to find any piece I think she's 11 or 12-year-old resonates. And the piece that I wrote was very popular sounding. It's like a very manga, Joe Hisaishi, that kind of more popular manga anime sound, kind of a little bit of Bill Evans, kind of all of that mixed in. And apparently I was honored because Ellie said, this is the one song she loves and she resonates with it. And I'm like, wow, it's nice to write a piece that's kind of like a teenage romantic kind of, yeah. But if you all know classical music, if you have a 4/4 time signature, we emphasize the beats 1 and 3. Those are our strong beats, right? And Michael, if we play jazz, what are the beats that are emphasized in jazz?
All of them.
Well, but 2 and 4, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, but you have to help me here, Michael. Well, your correct answer is 2 and 4. So what I have been saying is for the audience who paid ticket to come hear music with me, I'm giving your money's worth because I'm giving you all 4 beats by playing classical music, Beethoven 1 and 3, and then with jazz 2, 4, right? So I'm doing it and giving you all 4 beats together. And I have an interesting theory about how having jazz and classical in your musical wellness program could be very good for your health. I did my research. Western wonderful classical music began with the first employer was the Christian church. The Christian church, Christianity is the founding fathers of the Western European music that we know. So wonderful. However, the Christian church was very strict about what to compose. They said, if you compose music, we want to make sure that it doesn't encourage the people to get up from their seats and dance. Dance was considered a sin back in 500 years ago, right? They wanted music that focused on, I would consider horizontal harmony and melody. It's like classical music began with the Gregorian chant. It's like flowing, but there's no beat bringing it down to the ground. And then when I started singing jazz, I realized jazz is driven by a dance-like rhythm and beat. And as someone who wanted to be a showstopper, my greatest ambition in life in high school was to go to Disney World and become a singer-dancer. And guess how that talk with my parents went? My parents are in heaven. They're not telling me what to do now. I'm singing and dancing now. Okay, well, are you proud of me? I think she is. I got the NEPTA talking, so they're okay. Yeah, it's like a compromise. So, what I wanted to mention is, I'm sure many of you already know the chakras. Is anyone who doesn't know the chakras? Okay, so this is from the Hindu culture, Indian culture. And when we meditate, we raise our energies up into the crown chakra, which is the top one. If you see a lot of people, some people wear yanka, and I believe that's to work with the heavenly energies. But I believe, for me, my experience in classical music is that classical music is top half of our bodies, and then jazz, which originated in Africa, is more focused on the beat and the rhythm. With the jazz, it gives me so much root chakra energy, dance energy in the second chakra, and then some. It's a very social music making, where you play with an ensemble, and it's absolutely improvisation, which is I get to play with my band members every week. We don't rehearse. I just say the name of the song, all of me, and they just say, what key? And at that point, I give them the beat, 2, 4, like this. And then we start, and you never know what's gonna happen. And that's one of the reasons I feel very recharged every week when I sing at the Wellington Restaurant, if you like. In the meantime, I specialize in the music of Olivier Messiaen. And when I play his music, I feel like my higher chakras are opening up. And it's one of the most spiritually uplifting music I've ever played in my life, the Quartet for the End of Time. And so I feel balanced singing jazz. Another thing I want to mention specifically for today is I feel like we don't laugh enough as classical musicians. I understand classical music is so refined with so much information that all of us get bogged down in the notes, the articulation, the Italian words, the German words, and the 5,000 YouTube videos we have to compare our performance to. I get it, but did you know that Beethoven was a jokester? And he and Haydn used to joke around. You know that Haydn did the Farewell Symphony, Surprise Symphony. He was known to be a very funny man, and Beethoven and Haydn used to exchange jokes. So my mission, I feel it's my mission, is to see if you guys can find the funny in the music we play. I feel a lot of Haydn sonata has that upbeat that sounds like a hiccup. I actually have a piece I performed in Jordan Hall, which is a Haydn sonata, and I hired someone to do hiccuping. And when you're teaching your Beethovens and your Haydn sonatas, and if your student, is just not sparkly, you could maybe find some humorous moments and laugh about it. I often laugh with my students a lot. They all know I'm a comedian as well. And laughter also brings authenticity, I feel, because we have very funny lives. I think all of us have a joke, or we have very awkward things happen to us and you're like telling someone, you're like, oh, that's so weird, that's so funny. So becoming a comedian has made me more honest than I already was, and not afraid of my embarrassing moments. I have very many, I'm very foolish, I'm very silly, I have made so many mistakes in my life, but these days, instead of going back to being depressed and sad because of my life circumstance, I didn't get the dream of a family, I don't have a dream of partner, I have no children, I just make a joke about it, and I go out into the world and share my joke. And you know what's worse? Much harder than performing in Carnegie Hall, because I just did, is to do a joke and not have anyone laugh. Literally, it's called bombing. And please, if you are scared of doing a piano concert, coming up and you're like so nervous, oh my God, what if I miss a note? Or what if I miss 2 notes? Just come to me and we'll send you to an open mic in comedy and have no one laugh at your joke. And once you experience the absolute devastation of that, playing music in front of 5,000 people will no longer be an issue, because at least in music, you still have an applause. You might not get a standing ovation, but they applaud. In comedy, when I started out and I would go up, it's usually packed. I'm doing joke number 1. Silence. Joke number 2. Silence. And people are like this. And I have to fulfill my 10 minutes. You have no idea how excruciating it is. It's the best cure-all for all stage fright. So if you have any problem, come to me. I will take you to one of these nights, and we will be embarrassed together in public. And then you can do your Carnegie Hall. Yeah, because music culture is so much nicer than comedy culture. Trust me. I think part of the reason I do it is so I'm not scared of anything at this point. I'm sure.
How do you get a new student to start improvising?
Oh, okay. So we could do that right away. I think the biggest problem is usually the longer a student has been playing classical piano without improvising, they're just like adults. They're like, no, I cannot play a note that often, right? Yeah, so you start with something very simple. I just do what's called like a one note improv, which every one of us can do. And we can do that in a second. So start with like just one note, and then play a C, and then play together. And I'm talking to you, pretend you can't talk, and talk back to me, and they'll play like a C back, and you start developing. Also, a really good one is this. Let's see who can make the ugliest sounds at the piano. Who sounds worse? That's a good one, because we're all afraid of sounding bad. So what we do is we compete to see who sounds worse. So I say, can you do the most unmusical sounds on the piano? That will get you going. Another one we can do is create some scary sounds. Scary sounds are very easy. All you have to do is put the pedal on, play some bottom note, smash the piano, right? So that's an easy one. The main idea is just play with psychology. And so once you compete in the ugly music competition, usually they're fine. And then we go back to one. Who wants to start with the ugly sound, or who wants to do the one note?
Let's keep this going. When you're talking to someone in a conversation, there's an awkward silence.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is an awkward silence. Okay, so we got a little obstacle because there was silence. Now I want you to get comfortable with silence. If I stop and go, sometimes it's good to just listen to the silence. But in order to improvise, you want to be also in touch with your dance motion. So I know they're a little nervous, but I want them to feel the beat and come up with sounds, because if you have only one note, there's not much you can do except to do with rhythm. So if we can be a little bit more dance-like and to play with the rhythm. So, all right. Like creating a melody and tries to go underneath. So that could be like the Dorian scale. So the next thing we'll do with some students is I give them and then give them some triads, and I ask them to create a melody, you know, very simple melody, maybe 3-4 notes. That's their melody, and then I have them pick triads underneath. And then eventually, let's say a child chooses the triads underneath, then I ask them to texture the harmony in the left hand. So let's say you have, they chose a D minor, E minor, F minor chord. Then I said, okay, let's texturize it so it has some pattern. And the first easiest one is, right? So staying with that pattern, but eventually with our, we try it in versions that are kids program, then I have them start doing better, smoother chord voicing. So instead of just moving into root positions, you have, you know, like, so that it's like a smoother chord progression. So we'll start. Introducing them into different ways they can pattern their chords. The last thing that I do with my young students who are not inhibited, so from day one, 88 crayons, 88 Sonic Crayons. So in art class, when we take art class, we're given a piece of paper, white canvas, and your teacher gives you all the colors and say, just draw, right? So I have children do that. So the children who don't know not to improvise, they'll just come and go, you know, just all over the place. And I said, great. So they get used to doing it. And I say, I want you to make a song every day. And then we play what's called Imagery, and words and imagery. So we make a game where, okay, so you give me a color. Red, and you give me a noun.
Mom.
What?
A mom. You say noun.
Yes, red.
Oh, color you mean?
Red, what? Noun.
Blue.
No, like object or some noun.
Red sun.
Red sun.
Sun.
Okay, red sun is doing what?
Swimming.
setting? Oh, come on, let's
Dancing.
Dancing. So a child. So we play a game with my students. We'll sit around and we play this game. So it's like red, sun, dancing, and then one student will say that to the other student, and the rest, and the student goes, oh, red sun. You know, whatever. It's like, and then the other student who was improvising goes to the sea and says pink, rhinoceros climbing or something, and then the other person goes up and plays, you know, and then just makes up. So we play like a game with parents, and anyone who's in the room has to give the words. And we did this actually at the Black Box Theater where I teach this class. So we had the audience give 3 words to there were 3 students on the piano standing, and they created an improv based on imagery and words. So that's when they become comfortable with improvisation. But eventually, pretty much all my students, but I do find that eventually some students really lean towards improv and composition, and then some students are really much more interested in just learning more Bach. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vivian, again for inviting me for this talk, and Eric for setting up this amazing everything, and for all of you for sticking around. And if you are interested in working with me in any shape or form, I'm still doing.
Do you have any publications or any?
I'm working on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You'll let them to know. And
I have. Yeah. I have this thing called Infinity 88 method, which I trademarked, and I'm right now in the process of writing that book, and I would. Yeah.
How can we get access to your music, especially like the music that Ellie?
Oh, you can come to my Infini, my website. Anything to say?
Thank you.
Or
Thank you so much.
yeah.